Live and welcome to today's edition of NASCAR '07 with the Mark Martin Revenge Tour season. We are at the Dover International Speedway for the running of today's race. 400 laps, 400 miles around the Monster Mile at Dover. We did win at Dover earlier in the season, the third race of the year, and in that race, Mark Martin led 231 laps en route to his victory. Dale Jr. ended up finishing in second. That was the closest really he has come to a win so far this season. So we'll see what this race will bring here today as we kick things off. We will be starting at the tail end of the field here. Just like last night, no practice, no qualifying, jumping right into it. Green flag is in the air. Jimmie Johnson leads us to the green as we are underway. I was out of the gas there early off the start. Let the field try to form in front of us, and already a little contact at the tail end of the pack. Kyle Petty almost got turned down the racetrack on the opening lap after making contact with the wall and another car there. He was getting hooked in the left rear right as Martin drove underneath him. So even backing out of it, 3 spots were gained on the initial start. These restarts are wild here at Dover on these EA games. Tend to see cautions after restarts. Longer green flag runs, not as many. They'll stack up off turn 4 again, and a big charge by Martin off the exit of the corner as he gains a few spots down on the bottom. A lot of 3 wide again off the exit of turn 2. No contact that time as they funnel into the corner. Dave Blaney is one of the cars stuck on the very outside of the racetrack. Saw some sparks flying there, a little contact. A couple cars in front of us. Casey Kane not giving Mark Martin a lot of room here. 3 wide, still 3 wide. Tony Stewart starting deep in the pack. He's stuck behind Paul Menard. Can't clip the apron here at Dover, I'll tell you that as well. It is very slippery. This car will spin right around and we end up touching that thing, so it's what makes passing very difficult here. Got to be patient making passes. And although I picked up a lot of spots early, I'm picking good spots to pass cars. If it looks like it's going to be a tight squeeze into the corner, I'm really trying not to send it in there. Like right here with David Stremme, who just completely makes contact with the front bumper of the 6. Got to get a run up off the exit of the corner, get underneath him well before corner entry instead of making a late dive. Underneath the Dover Monster. And the 100 car as well. I haven't been able to look at the chat yet. I apologize for that. It is a hectic start here. Trying to get more spaced out, and then I'll get to see who's all here. A little lower. Line through the corner. I gotta be careful. You gotta be out of the gas when you touch that apron. You can see how much momentum I lost. Truex was able to get to the outside again. Trying to run a little off the bottom so it gives me more room. Really trying to race clean. Because that and a little bit of contact, especially in the middle of the corner, and I feel like I'm going to touch the apron that way too. Tony Raines, who had a top 10 finish last night at Pocono, led some laps in that race. One of his more solid performances of the season. Running in the 20th place position in the early laps here today. Jimmie Johnson's led all of the first 10 laps from the pole. He hasn't really pulled away from the pack at all. A touch of the wall off turn 2. Got the major. A little scrapage. I feel like this car does have a lot of speed when I can really get going. My lap times, I can guarantee you, are going to quicken quite a bit. If I can get some clean air on the nose. It helps that the leaders aren't really pulling away from the rest of the pack here, and things are as tight as they have been. Oh. Newman, McMurray side by side. Thought they were going to be 3 wide. I saw Bobby Labonte down on the very bottom group, but apparently he was clear of the 12 of Newman. Big run off turn 4 this time. Oh, 3 wide. A little smoke up near the wall there. That was a bold pass made by Mark Martin. Looked like Biffle and Newman might have made a little contact up off the exit of turn 2 as well. Nothing major. It held them up a little bit. You can see a bit of a gap behind the 6 now. And Hamlin up in the top 10 early. I like that alternate paint scheme Matt Kenseth's got today. It's a different one. Is that AmeriQuest? I didn't even know he had that in this game. I don't think I've seen that from him all season. I think this is the only paint scheme Mark Martin's got all season. And if it's not, then I apologize for not changing the paint schemes more often. Well, Johnson lost the lead a few laps ago. Looks like he's dropped to 4. Dale Jr.'s having another good run at Dover. Going for second place. He led quite a few laps in the first race here earlier this season. And again, he finished second in that race. Got in the wall, trying to catch the car still. Little contact with Kyle Busch. I got to get back into rhythm again. I'm all over the place. Make one little mistake. Dale Jr. leads. Denny Hamlin, rookie Denny Hamlin nonetheless, up to 4th. Johnson still slipping backwards. He had an engine failure at Pocono with a DNF last night. Kurt Busch maybe a little contact with the back of Johnson into turn 1. Martin under Kurt Busch into turn 1. Hamlin stuck in the outside of Johnson. Martin's going to slide underneath him as well. Make 2 passes in 1 turn to get to 6th. And Kurt Busch will slide underneath the 11 next. You get stuck on the outside, it's so easy to get freight trained here. Oh boy. 6 and the 48 fighting for the same spot on the track. Jeff Gordon up to 2nd. 3 straight top 5s for Gordon. 2 second place finishes and a 4th last night. Gordon led the most laps at Pocono yesterday. Had probably the fastest car in the field, but wasn't able to get the win. A lot of contact. I thought I was going to get right hooked right into the 29 of Harvick. That contact with Bobby Labonte, things got tight. Labonte looks like he's still going to hold on to pass Harvick at least for 4th. So Dale Jr., Jeff Gordon, Mark Martin, top 3, 25 laps in. Gordon a little loose into turn one. Finally got his car to the bottom of the track in the center of the corner. Can't make that move on him yet. Looking low. Gordon still trying to block. Oh, contact! Gordon got into Earnhardt. Martin into the back of Gordon. And Gordon still gets to the lead. They made contact. I couldn't check up in time. I think when I hit Gordon in the back bumper, it just shot him to the lead. Mark Martin had to go down to the grass to try to save the car. All right. Settled in a little bit. Matthew Dorter, Bruno, Easy Network, Wade, thanks for tuning in. NASCAR Cup Series, or NASCAR Penske Cup Series Racing, thanks for tuning in. Ryan Browick, I see you in the chat also. Appreciate all you tuning in here late morning. Early start to a stream. Got plans for later today, so the only way I was going to be able to get this thing in its entirety. Last time I ran a race at Dover, it took about 2.5 hours earlier this season. There were only 2 cautions in that race. Earnhardt and Gordon are definitely quick. Michael Waltrip has blown an engine. And he'll be out of the race early. Lap 32, 33. On that engine failure for Waltrip. My screen. I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't remember screaming. Dale Jr. holding Martin tightly to the bottom, but Martin will clear the 8 of Dale Jr. Now going to try to find a way around Jeff Gordon for the lead here. Not going to be easy. Martin looks to the inside of the 24. Oh, Gordon slipped. Really saw his car wiggle on that outside lane into turn 1. Gordon's car is fast, but it looks a little unsteady. And now Mark Martin leads at the Dover International Raceway. Speedway. There's 5 bonus points. Dale Jr. going to get back to second on Jeff Gordon as well here. Now we can really let it rip. I don't plan on giving this thing back up anytime soon. I want to lead like 300 plus laps. If we can lead, so the exact number to get to 3,000 laps led on the season today. Oh, we got a caution. First time today, lap 38. Yellow flag is out. We had 2 cautions in the first Dover race, but 1 already here today. Contact into turn 1, the 151 and the 01. I didn't take long. That just sounds like a weird comment. Good morning. I'm waiting on Dad to be shaved. I don't know what that means, but welcome to the stream, Mike. Green flag back in the air. Good restart for Mark Martin. Soda. And his water. I can remember those mornings as a kid waking up to get a root beer or a Coke Zero from my grandma's house like right away in the morning. It's like the first thing I drank. It was like wake up 7, 8 o'clock, grab a root beer from the fridge. Gordon got by Earnhardt for second place initially on the restart. I don't think anybody hit pit road during that first caution, lap 38. No, I don't drink coffee. Few and far between times that I will. If it is, it's when I'm on the go and it'd be an iced coffee, but I don't even know when the last time I had. I mean, it's probably been a couple months. Last time I've had nice coffee. Can't shave, I only have one eye. Yeah, but you said waiting for your dad to be shaved. I thought you were insinuating that he was getting shaved. I don't know. That's a Welcome to the stream, Michael. I understand where you're coming from now. Oh boy. Don't touch that apron. I stay focused. As soon as it feels as if I'm going to potentially clip that apron, I'm out of the gas immediately. I do not want to spin at all costs here. We got a fast car. I don't want to wreck it like I did at Homestead. Now, if I have to guess, it's probably going to be a 3 pit stop race today. So I have 2,663 laps led after leading 50 at Pocono last night. So in order for me to get to 3,000 laps led on the season after today's race, we would have to lead 337 laps or more to eclipse that 3,000 lap lead mark on the year. And remember, we're trying to go for the record for the most laps led in a single season, which is Bobby Allison's record. It's over 4,000. We only have 8 races to go after this race, but we have 2 more racetracks, 3 more really, where I think I can really lead a lot of laps. Bristol, Martinsville, New Hampshire. We got 2 500 lap races. Martinsville's the very next race too, and I've been really good at the flat tracks. If I qualify well there, I think I can get to the front, hopefully stay there and lead a ton of laps. I mean, we could really cut into that number. Bristol I led a couple hundred at earlier in the season. And New Hampshire is one of my better tracks on this game. If I qualify well there, I could definitely go out and lead 200 plus laps easily there. And, you know, there might be a random intermediate track somewhere in there I can lead a bunch as well. But with the last 2 races of the season, you know, Sonoma being 110 laps, Daytona being 160, if I'm going to get this record, I have to be probably within 100 or so going into those final 2 races. So I'm going to have to lead nearly 1,000 laps in about a 6-race stretch after this, assuming I lead a bunch of laps tonight, that next 1,000's probably going to have to come in the 6 races after that. So we'll see. Yeah, I saw it. I saw it. I can't comment to every single chat. I try to read as many as I possibly can, though. It's a lot harder at a track like this. The straightaways are not very long. You have to really focus on not clipping that apron every single corner. Halfway out of gas. And I was at lap 56. We had 3 laps of caution, so it's definitely looking like a 3-stop race. We just got to pit every 100 laps, and we'll be perfectly fine for fuel. Split this race in quarters. That's my plan. I don't plan on pitting during any cautions today. I'll tell you that right now. Unless a caution lands somewhere close to a 100 lap marker, that's the only way I would consider pitting under caution. I want to keep track position. I know I passed through the field once, but it didn't feel comfortable at all. And the later we get in this race, we know that the AI race more aggressively in the later going than what they do in the early going on these EA Sports games. I've seen it time and time again. I feel like they block a lot more. They kind of pinch you off in the corners more. And I don't want to get pinched off here. Not the track. Yeah, I definitely try to get to as many chats when I'm like under caution or in the pits or something. It's tough in the pits. Not in the pits, but what I meant to say, it's tough to get through like everything at that one point in time. So I don't like SmackDown last night. So I didn't actually watch it live, but I was watching the highlights because I would have missed the first hour or so when the stream was over. I was just kind of watching the highlights as it goes. I'm excited to see the Bloodline Rules match tonight, though. It made it more entertaining for my liking. It piques my interest more than what I had interest for that match going into the night. Biffle getting up to second, passing Kurt Busch. Dale Jr., Jeff Gordon, who were second and third on the restart, are now 4th and 5th. Rather, 5th and 6th. Kyle Busch is up to 4th. Both the Busch brothers in the top 4 positions. 3rd, 4th. Kurt in 3rd. Roush Fenway Racing 1-2 at the front of the field for now, but Kurt Busch looking for second off turn 4. Not pulling away, but I'm not slow enough in the corners. You know, even if I come up off that bottom lane, because I don't want to run tight to the apron every single lap, because I know I'm going to clip it one of these cars fast enough that I can kind of help protect that quite a bit. Starts at 7 o'clock tonight, Eastern. People talk about shaving in the chat. It's getting weird in the chat this morning. Is this like a morning thing? Or you guys are just like more weird in morning streams for some reason? Yeah, is UFC like every Saturday now? I feel like they have pay-per-views more often than they used to. Yes, it is every... Oh, yes, on the weird... 6:30, not 7. No, it's at 7. For some reason, like on the ticket, it says 6:30, but it starts at 7. Because the pre-show is 3 hours and starts at 4. I don't think they have any matches scheduled on the pre-show, so maybe they do. Maybe they're going to potentially add one. And that's why it says 6:30. But yeah, it starts at 7. Kyle Busch trying to get up to second. I'm not sure where he's at in points. When he ended up winning at Homestead for his first win of the season, he was 22nd in points at the time. "29 more laps until we pit." I'm going to try to find an opening to pit when there's like nobody there. So if that means I have to run a little bit longer, I will. If I have to short pit right at lap 100, I will. I want to be able to get on and off of pit road cleanly. And the reason why I say that is because we had a Busch Series race here where I was on pit road when there were a lot of cars there and I got stuck on pit road. We had that issue at Talladega as well. So I'm not as worried about that at Talladega going forward. I think that was more of a freak thing there, but here at Dover, I think the pit road's just so narrow with where the pit wall is, everything else, that it's so easy for that to happen. I feel like Martinsville would kind of be the same way, too. So definitely going to have to watch that when we're on pit road. Just have to gauge how many cars look like they're down there and try to pit when there's not as many. Who I think is going to win tonight. So if I go through like the whole card, I definitely think Cody's retaining. I would be shocked if Solo ends up winning the title. So I'm going to go with Cody. I'm going to assume that that's going to be the main event. The Punk and McIntyre match, I really think it's kind of... It could go either way. I would lean towards McIntyre winning just because I feel like he needs a win over Punk. Punk's kind of gotten the better of him for a while during this feud. And I also think Seth Rollins will probably get involved and cost Punk in some way for the win, and that would escalate that portion of the feud even more. I'm going to go... The Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan one, I feel like Liv Morgan's going to retain. I would have expected Rhea to win like a couple weeks ago, but the more I think about it, I really think Liv's going to win. And I think it's going to be because Dominic Mysterio is going to get involved. Now, I don't know if Dom's going to cost Rhea on purpose or on accident, because he was trying to like help Becky beat Liv a while back, and he was, costing Becky the win ultimately, but it wasn't on purpose. So I don't know if it's going to be kind of like that or he's going to actually turn on Rhea. So we'll have to wait and see for that. I don't know how they're going to pull that off. Or Rhea's just going to end up winning. I don't think that that's going to be it, but I would lean towards Liv winning for that reason. Damian Priest and Gunther, I also, right when Gunther won the King of the Ring, I'm like, yeah, he's definitely winning the title at SummerSlam. No doubt about it. The closer we get to SummerSlam, I'm almost starting to think Damian Priest is going to win. But I don't know if Finn Balor gets involved potentially. And if he does, I don't know if that helps or hurts Priest. I know he doesn't want him involved. That's the one I'm probably most undecided on. I think I'm going to go with Gunther winning. I think he'll win the match. I don't know if he'll win the title. Because I could see him winning by disqualification or something if Finn Balor gets involved, but the title wouldn't change hands that way. I definitely think Nia Jax is beating Bayley. And LA Knight beating Logan Paul. I think that's all the matches. If I'm missing one, let me know in the chat. Watch the retirement ceremony on my way to... That's going to be... Isn't that going to be like right before the game, though? I would imagine it's not like early in the day. There's no chance I'm going to be able to see that. Like, I'm already going to be in Cleveland doing my own thing. I'll have my Tigers hat on tonight, though. I have my Detroit hat on in Cleveland. Hopefully I don't get hazed too poorly. I mean, you can do that, but I'll end up rewatching it at some point, probably tomorrow morning. So I want to be able to actually, like, watch it, listen to it, and rather than watching it on mute. I don't think it's as must-see as, like, Miguel Cabrera's last game last season, which unfortunately I couldn't see live because the NASCAR race was going on at the same time. Going back and, you know, rewatching that whole ordeal after the fact later that night, that was pretty cool. Gave me chills for sure. I don't know that this will give me chills. I mean, there's been a lot of, you know, number retirement ceremonies in the past. I don't think that this is going to be one that would hit me in the feels really like something like that did last year. Personally. Good jump by Guardian fans, yeah. Are the Guardians playing at home this weekend? Does anybody know? I keep forgetting to look that up. If they're playing at home tonight, that is going to be... It's going to be busy in Cleveland tonight. I have zero clue if they are or aren't. I think it would have been worse probably for SmackDown last night just because those are... The Cavs Arena is like right next door to Progressive Field. So that would have made parking more of a nightmare, I feel like. At least like these two stadiums have more space between them in the city. Yeah, Miguel Cabrera retiring, that was like part of my childhood, you know, finally leaving. Like that, Aaron Rodgers leaving the Packers, but there wasn't like a ceremony like it was with Cabrera in his last game in Detroit. But I kind of felt the same way. So sporadically, there's been a few cars to go lap down in this race, but ultimately not many of them. Mark Martin has gotten through the lap cars he has passed so far pretty easily. And for these drivers and teams to make it on this race on 3 stops, they have to make it to at least lap 100 first. And we do have one of the Roush Fenway Fords pitting now. That'd be Jamie McMurray and several other cars coming in behind him. And or in front of him. So we've got green flag pit stops going on for the first time. Quite a few cars are in. And it's short of lap 100, so that makes this a little interesting. Nobody pitted during that first caution all the way back on lap 38. Haven't had a yellow since. I didn't even see Biffle get by Busch for second. I wonder if it was during that string of a few lap cars we caught nose to tail, and maybe he was able to make a pick play. Martin McElhenney, thanks for tuning in. Played Bill Elliott's NASCAR Challenge back in the day on the PC. That was fun. I've never played that. That's definitely before my time. I'll have to read the other longer comment you put when we get to pit road here. Oh, boy. That would have been the worst time to have a spin by clipping the apron right with a car coming out of the pits underneath. Oh, actually missed the corner that time. But Biffle still was not able to get underneath Mark Martin. Those left side tires have held on this whole run. We're definitely going to have some drivers making it to lap 100, which means some drivers can make it on 3 stops. Coming to lap 100, Greg Biffle finally pits. Still got some cars pitting. I guess I'll just stay out as long as I can here. At this rate. Just in case we get a caution. Yeah, I played NBA games. That was like one of the last like sports franchise games that I got into playing was 2K. I think the first one I had was for my PSP, and I can't remember what year it was. It was probably one of the late 2000s, like an 08 or an 09 or something like that. But I feel like a lot of the other sports games I got into playing, like the NASCAR games, I played some of the earlier ones. Thunder 2002 was my first one. You know, even NHL, I think 07, a little bit before NBA. Madden, I played a lot of the early ones. 06 is my favorite. And I had the very first MLB The Show on my PSP as well. I think that was 2005 season that came out. That was like right when I got it. It was like a bundle deal where I got that with the PSP. There was a couple games that came with it. There were 3 games. It was that. I forget. I think it was SmackDown versus Raw came with it too. Which probably would have been the same year, like 05 or 06, and then there's another game that came with it also. Well, I've definitely made it to the goal here. We're going to pit next time by lap 107. Mark Martin will make his way to pit road for 4 tires and fuel. Long line of traffic up ahead of him, but he hasn't caught them yet. So 4 tire pit stop incoming. Not an easy pit road to get onto, but Mark Martin makes it easy. And no adjustments. Yep, 4 tires, full tank of gas here. Mark Martin fan back in the day. Don't believe I was aware EA Sports made this game. Not really into gaming, so I never knew it was likely to be a game, but I was interested in it. Yeah, I mean this obviously just watching it when I was a kid, like I was already peaked between that, diecast and the video games. It was just a trio of the three that I loved. NASCAR growing up, well, and then racing myself. So I mean, really, it was like four things that kind of invested my interest in racing so much growing up in NASCAR. So Mark Martin staying out of the pits longer than everybody else. It was a clean stop, but he comes out of the pits in 6th place. I was going to have to try to fight through traffic to get back up here. Looks to the inside of Jeff Gordon on the front stretch. He drives underneath Kyle Busch as well, clears him for 4th. Tony Stewart is the race leader through the pit stop sequencing. Yeah, I got into racing quarter measures when I was like 6 years old. I didn't start like actually racing competitive races until I was 8. There's like this local track that this guy had that he didn't like host races, but you could basically test. It'd have just like all day testing on a dirt track. That was like a go-kart track length. So I went there for a couple years first. Oh, well, we got a caution. I don't know if I got to 3rd before the caution came out or not. I was in the midst of passing Dale Jr. Second yellow of the day. It looks like contact between Dale Jarrett and Jeremy Mayfield. So Jarrett and Mayfield get together. All right. Well, everybody just pitted, so I'd imagine that, well, Tony Stewart's back in. 4 cars pitted there than I would have expected. That's probably going to make the window a little bigger for a lot more cars to make it on field of what we were expecting. So now Greg Biffle will restart in the lead as the green flag's back in the air. Oh, what a restart here for Martin. Quickly gets to the bottom, but not quite going to get underneath his teammate Greg Biffle. Lap car pulled up in front of the Biff. And that could create an opportunity for a pass into turn 3. Going to use the lap car as a pick. And just like that, Biffle's back out, or Martin rather, back out in front. I do think if that caution didn't come out, I was definitely going to, it was going to take a little longer for me to get to the 20 and the 16, but 20 pitted. Bumped us up to 2nd of the restart. Couldn't have had a better restart, really. Lap car getting out in front of Biffle definitely helped me pass him a little quicker. Mark Martin has not been passed for the lead when we have been the leader in this race. So, car is good and clean air. Dale Jr. back into P2 again, as he was running for most of the original tire stint at the beginning of the race. Already had just as many cautions in this Dover race as what we had in the first Dover race earlier in the season. Again, we had 2 cautions in that one, and we've had 2 already here in these first 119 laps. That was the longer of the 2 green flag runs we have had today. First caution was back on lap 38. This one around lap 113. Packers-Browns game. You know, the Packers do play the Browns a lot in the preseason. They play the Browns a lot in the preseason. They always play the Bengals a lot in the preseason. But I've never been interested in going to a preseason game, to be completely honest. I mean, they're a lot cheaper, but yeah, I don't plan on doing that. I mean, they play in Detroit once a year. You know, it's driving-wise, it's an easier game for me to get to. I've got to see them play a regular season game. played in Pittsburgh for a game last year. I really thought about going to see that also. I had a Metallica concert I went to that night in Detroit instead. How close it was, I didn't want to miss it. Been itching to see Metallica in concert again. It's like 2016, I think. I saw them the first time. 16 or 17 was the first time I saw them. It might have been 17, but saw them at Comerica Park. And I was kind of ill that night when I went. So it wasn't like the perfect experience for me for that reason, even though they played awesome. So I was itching to get back and see them at some point in time, but they hadn't really come anywhere local for me to see them at that right time until then. So got to see them twice too. They had two different set lists on a Friday and a Sunday on their tours last year. So in the chat the other day telling where the Joy should get out of NASCAR, drive golf carts or go-karts instead. Jeez. You know, I wonder what he could do with like a competitive Xfinity Series ride. You know, Joe Gibbs Racing has had a lot of, you know, like Eric Almirola, a lot of part-time drivers running, you know, couple of their cars over the last couple of years. This year they only have two full-time drivers, and that's Sheldon Creed and not Jonathan Nemechek, Sheldon Creed and Chandler Smith. Yeah, I don't plan on making a trip to Brazil. It's going to be weird watching them play on a Friday night to start the season, though. But I'm off work that day, and I'm all here for it. You know what, now that I think about it, I really hope the Truck Series isn't racing that night. So otherwise I'm going to miss it. I didn't even think about that. I don't think they are. They don't have many Friday races left this season, and the ones I could think of off the top of my head would be the season finale at Phoenix. They only have 8 races left in general. 7 after Richmond next week. I can't remember. I think the Martinsville race at the end of the year is probably a Friday also. Talladega is definitely a Saturday. Usually is. Homestead, I feel like they usually run Saturday afternoon and Xfinity Saturday night at Homestead, since it's not been the finale at least. Cars One Boy, thanks for tuning in. I'm assuming you're talking about Olympics, the soccer in the chat. Trucks used to run Thursday nights. Bristol. The only time the trucks would ever run like a Thursday night is if the Cup Series was racing a Saturday night. Then they would have Xfinity on Friday and Trucks Thursday. Trucks had a few races during the season on Thursdays. Actually, the Eldora race, when the Truck Series was at Eldora consistently, that was always on a Wednesday night. Sometimes it fell on a Thursday, sometimes it fell on a Wednesday, but that was always middle of the week too. I don't know why that was. I don't know if that's because Eldora would have like a local, dirt track show on a Saturday, so they couldn't have it on the weekend. But yeah, they would always have that on a Wednesday or a Thursday. I think the year I saw it, it was on a Thursday. Went there right after work. I think that was 2019. It was the last race they had there. Didn't know it was going to be the last one. Great car getaway. Front of the field here, Martin, Earnhardt, and Biffle. Hey, McFly. McFly. Think McFly. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. Back to the Future. It's probably my favorite movie trilogy of all time. For sure, but yeah, the original one is one of my favorite. There's a bunch of just like stupid comedic lines that Biff would say in the movie that always stick in my head rent free. Why don't you make like a tree and get out of here? I always think about that. I think about that more than the original saying of make like a tree and leave. You make like a tree and get out of here. That's great. Cup guys will run Eldora next season. I hope. I would definitely go. I only live like 2 hours from Eldora. They can sustain the crowd for it. I guarantee it. They get 30 to 40,000 fans at the Kings Royal every year. They could get that many fans for a cup race. I can guarantee it. They'd have enough camping for like a Saturday, Sunday if they want to do a truck and a cup show on the same weekend. I'm all for the Cup Series running dirt. I just didn't like them running dirt at Bristol because I love Bristol so much. But yeah, a typical dirt track. I've been clamoring for the Cup Series to go to Eldora since the trucks have started racing there. Well, Earnhardt passed Martin. It was the first car that's passed Martin for the lead when Mark has been out in front. But after Dale leads one lap, Mark crosses him back over, and he's quickly back in the lead again. Well, that did not last very long. Yeah, Bristol's always been my favorite track since I was a little kid. And going there in person, I love Bristol the way it is. I went to the dirt race there in 2022 just to kind of see what it was all about. And I grew up, racing on dirt. I love dirt racing. I love NASCAR. I love the thought of them doing both. I just wish it wasn't Bristol. That's all. You can argue the Dirt Bristol race I was at was probably the best one, too. So, I mean, the finish was crazy, don't get me wrong, but it still doesn't mean I'd wish that we had a dirt race there over a concrete race once a year there. Especially the way the concrete race was there earlier this season. I think a lot of fans were all right with it returning. What do I think of Sheldon Creed? I don't know. I feel like he's as good as he'll be. Like, I really don't think he could get any better. If he finally breaks through to victory lane, that may happen at some point. He keeps putting himself up in position. He's finished second so many times. But he's still, like, when he's in the position to win, he still overdrives it going for the win. I think he'll calm down a little bit with that if he gets the victory lane. I don't see him being a championship contender in the Xfinity Series. You know, if he, for whatever reason, stays Xfinity Series full-time for his whole career, I don't think Sheldon Creed, you know, he might make championship 4 appearances, but that would probably be the best he could do. I think we've seen Sheldon Creed at his peak. I don't think he makes it to the Cup Series ever. I'd be shocked if he gets a Cup Series ride full-time. He's really going to have to set the world on fire one of these times at a random season of the Xfinity Series if he's going to make it to Cup full-time. And I feel like that's the goal, you know, especially for a younger driver like that at some point, is to try to get the Cup. That's a Bristol Night Race 2019. Only been to Texas, Talladega, Bristol, Bar, Bristol, Augusta. Yeah, I've been to so many different tracks. Bristol, I fell in love with. I mean, some of it could be that was my favorite track growing up as a kid. So it was like one that I've just always wanted to go to. My first Bristol race was the 2020 All-Star race, and a lot of people tend to think that that wasn't really a good race. That was my first Bristol experience, and I still fell in love with it. And there was like only 30,000 people there because it was a COVID crowd. It was the first race after COVID. And a lot of it was, I knew the race wasn't like great. I knew it wasn't, but it piqued my interest enough to say, hey, I want to come back here next year when there's a full crowd. And I did. I was there for the 2021 night race, and between the Xfinity race that Friday night and the Cup race that Saturday night, they were both just phenomenal. They were both great races. The Xfinity Series race was something unlike I've ever seen before, but then the Cup race was still pretty good too. And then I was there the following night race. Well, the dirt race technically was what I went to in 22, but then got back to the fall race last year and plan on going again this year too. That's my annual tradition track outside of Michigan, which is my home track. But yeah, I've been to a lot of other tracks. There's a lot of other tracks that are really nice facilities or put on really good races that I've seen good races at, but Bristol's unlike any other. I love super speedway racing. Seeing it live is absolutely wild. And that first time I went to Talladega, I was just edge of my seat the whole time, wondering how they don't crash going that fast, that close, so lap after lap after lap. Until you actually see it in person, it's like you can see it on TV, and TV doesn't do it enough justice. Then you get the crowd atmosphere into it, especially you're coming down to those final 20 laps of the race, and everybody's pretty much standing up the whole time. Anything could happen at any moment. The intensity just ratchets up so much more. But yeah, Bristol is just good short track racing. Martinsville's great, but Bristol, I just like Bristol better, personally. I just feel like it suits NASCAR better. Yeah, I was at the 500 in 2022. It's the only time I've been to Daytona. That's definitely up there for sure too. You could feel the prestige. I mean, you could tell the crowd that's there is a crowd that majority of those fans are there every single year, whether they travel down or they're local, because you get to the final like 50 laps and you could tell they're more racing fans than NASCAR fans are, if that makes any sense. Which I'm not, dissing on NASCAR fans, but there are the Talladega, one of those tracks where fans clamor for crashes. That's not really the case with Daytona. I don't feel that, at least when I was at Daytona. I've been to Talladega a few times, and I've heard some wild things come from fans after a crash happens. I've said it here on the channel before, but when Jordan Anderson's truck caught fire in the truck race there a couple years ago, there was this dude sitting a couple seats down from me. He turned around to the people behind him and was like, that was better than a crash. The dude literally caught fire, got taken into the back of an ambulance. He ended up having like second-degree burns on his neck or something. This dude just turns around. He's just like, that was better than a crash. It is sick. Some sick people out there. I don't think of those guys as NASCAR or NASCAR racing fans. I think of them as like Demolition Derby fans that go to a NASCAR race hoping for something similar, and they'll call it a good show, but I didn't see that at Daytona. I'll tell you that much. Yeah, Daytona with the 500, if there's like a pass for the lead anywhere in the final 20 laps, no matter who it is, everybody's just cheering. Like it could have been Joey Logano, Denny Hamlin, everybody's cheering because they know it's the Daytona 500. Maybe when the race is all over, boos might settle in, but in the heat of the moment, everybody's just... They love the racing. That's great. It's a great atmosphere. Those are weirdos. Yeah, those are just... They're sick fucks is what I call them. That's what they are. I don't cuss much on the channel, but that's who those people are. Disgusting. And a lot of that too, people, clamoring for crashes or cautions and stuff, it always rubs me the wrong way because I raced growing up. So I was taught like racing etiquette from like a young age. And I get people get upset. Like I was upset at times. Like I raced from, first time, like I said, I stepped in a quarter midget. I was 6 years old. I raced up until I was like 19. So, I mean, I get, there's anger, emotion in it. I don't, fault anybody for having like any on-track altercations. That stuff happens. I've seen it. I've been through it. But, wishing for these violent accidents or something like that is just disgusting. I've been in some serious crashes. There's one crash in particular that I probably shouldn't have kept racing that next night, the next week. I guarantee you I was concussed, but I didn't really think anything of it. I don't know how old I was. I was probably like 14 or 15 years old. I was in a go-kart. It was like one of my first years in a go-kart. I was coming up off the exit of turn 2. It was this like flatter oval. It wasn't one of the more higher speed tracks I'd raced, thankfully. But we were still going like 30, 35 miles an hour. It's still fast, so you're in a go-kart. But anyway, the back straightaway wall, it was a guardrail. And the guardrail had a gap up above, like where there was basically, you could see like grass behind it on the back side. So I don't even know how. I can't remember how I like got into that predicament. I don't know if I got back in the gas too soon, if I was just super tight. But I ended up driving into the wall. I never lifted. I didn't lift. I drove into the wall, and I went from however fast I was going, 30, 35, to pretty much a dead stop because my cart got wedged underneath the guardrail. And it, like, basically, I hit it with the right front. It grabbed, pulled the cart around, and just basically flipped it up into the air. And I went flying out of it. And where the cart ended up landing and where I was like maybe 10 feet away from where it was. I was in the middle of the middle of the racetrack. Got the top, bottom, middle groove. I was in the middle of the back straightaway, and my cart was like upside down against like the outside, basically about where it had grabbed and just threw me out. I had just a pounding headache the rest of the night. You know, I had told people like, hey, you know, I kind of have a headache or whatever. But we ended up somehow, the thing was junk the rest of the night, but we did what we could to try to repair it. And I still ended up making the feature because it was a heat race where this happened. I had to drive in the B main. I ended up still making the A main, and I ended up finishing top 10. I don't know how the heck I did it. That was like honestly one of my impressive drives. I was concussed. The cart, we had to duct tape the sidewall on the left side. There was duct tape holding the roll cage bar to like the bottom of the body, just to keep it from dragging on the ground. We just had duct tape holding it. I can remember that. We had to screw extra holes into like the front body of the like basically the hood, I guess, of the go-kart to keep it attached to the side panels because it just completely tore off. It was a nasty crash. It really was. I mean, I've seen some gnarly ones just from like other classes that would be like out on the track when we're working on our stuff, and then you would hear of something. You know, when I was in quarter midgets too, and it was, you know, more open wheel than what the go-karts were, I've seen some flips there. Luckily, I didn't roll one of those, but yeah, I've seen like wheel-to-wheel contact before. It gets pretty gnarly. I've seen a few gnarly ones for sure, but yeah, that one, it ripped the fence, like it ripped the guardrail. I basically broke the wall, and they had a red flag, not only for that heat race, but it probably took them like an hour and a half to fix the guardrail so we can keep the races going that night. It ended up making it a long night, but yeah, I definitely, like, if they had like, you know, medical or anything of that nature on standby or whatever, I probably would have gotten tested for concussion. They'd have been like, yeah, you're not getting back in that thing. There's no chance. There's no chance. It took me a couple days to like start kind of not feeling weird, I guess, when I was walking around and stuff. It was in the middle of the summer, so thank goodness I didn't have to like go to school the next day or something. And I didn't have a job yet because I think I was like 14, 15 years old. So it's like I basically just kind of rested for a few days. That was good to go by the next week anyway. It bent the chassis. We had to get a new chassis. We kind of had another one that was like laying around anyway, but yeah, it was a gnarly accident. I don't think I've ever told that on the channel before. I'm usually kind of hush-hush about my racing career. I don't know. I just like, not that I miss it, you know, that much, but I try not to, I guess, talk about myself in that. It wasn't like, you know, I was a successful race car driver. Like, I raced go-karts and stuff just growing up, but quarter midgets and go-karts. But, yeah, that was a nasty crash. I flipped it one other time, but that I was, like, stuck in the seat, and it wasn't a full rotation. Like, the cart just kind of toppled on its side, and I was, like, trying to just get out of it, basically. I was kind of stuck in the seat. But it wasn't, like, violent enough where it could have thrown me out like that. When it threw me out of the car, like, all I remember was hitting the wall and then just being on the like the middle of the racetrack. Like, I don't remember anything of like being in the air. I just remember hitting the wall and then just being in the middle of the racetrack. But apparently my cart just came to a dead stop. I wish it would have been videotaped. I would have liked to have at least seen it I mean, it's probably a good thing, as young as I was when it happened, that I didn't see it, because it probably would have frightened me to get back in it. But I did get back in it eventually, obviously. Oh, we got another caution, our third of the race. Oh, man, speaking of going upside down, we were just talking about flips. David Stremme has flipped at Dover. This is like Joey Logano 2009 all over again. 2010, whatever year that was. I think it was 2010. Well, we're going to have to pit. We were close to about lap 200. And this is going to be interesting if we're going to make it on fuel on 2 more stops, but I feel like I'm extremely close to the window, so I'm going to pit here. Dale Jr. stayed out. I don't know how many other cars are going to stay out. How far away from Bowling Green, Ohio? About 20 to 25 minutes. I'd probably say about 25 minutes from Bowling Green. Bowling Green and Toledo aren't that far from each other. That's why that college football rivalry is so big. One of the bigger ones on the MAC, because the schools are only like 25 minutes from each other. Watching late model dirt race. I'll have to read that in a little bit. Should have read it under the caution. So it looks like there's 30 cars on the lead lap. Scott Riggs probably got the free pass. Mark Martin was the only car that pitted during that caution. A couple of them pitting right after the restart. So we're right on the edge of the window of making it. I made it like 106, 107 laps, somewhere around there. First time, a lot of 3-wide racing going on up here. We'll stack up on the backstretch. Fresh tires for Mark Martin, allowing him to gain some positions as well. Oh boy, hang on. Contact with Vickers. I really got to focus on just not wrecking on this restart while everything's jam-packed. I definitely didn't want to lose track position, but I think I can make it on fuel on 1 more stop. It's going to be close. Somebody, Dale Jr., one of the favorites to win the race, has blown an engine. Earnhardt was running top 3 pretty much the whole race. David Stremme flipped. He's still in. Just past him. A lot of smoke on the front stretch, but no caution. That was from the lap before. It's like a wild restart. Everything that's been happening. I see Dale Jr. Oh, near wreck off turn 4 again. Major stack up. And Mark Martin drove to the inside of every one of them and goes from about 12th to 4th in 1 straightaway. Oh, broken away from the field. There's still 3 cars for position ahead of us. 1 lapper as well. Tony Stewart leads, by the way. Biffle was in the lead. I think he pitted already. Tony Stewart pitted during the caution before that, so he can go a little bit further on fuel. I don't know how much further, but it was one of the few that pitted during the second yellow. Had 3 cautions now in the first half of this race. Pretty evenly spaced apart for the most part. Pass around to Lapper and Kurt Busch for 3rd. I think Bobby Labonte's in 2nd behind Stewart. Night Cheat, thanks for tuning in also. I see you in the chat. Yeah, Bowling Green's got a pretty good hockey program. They were in the Frozen Four like not that long ago, I thought. I've been there for a football game. I was at a BG University of Toledo football game a couple years ago. So my sister was a freshman. She'll be a senior, so it was about 3 years ago. 2021, I think. Bonnie with the low line getting into turn 3. Trying to block Mark Martin. Martin to the inside of Labonte for second. Martin taking these fresh tires to work here. Gets the second place into turn 1. Drives under Tony Stewart, looking for the lead into turn 3. Got it. No, JC's not in the chat. He said he probably wouldn't be here with the stream starting this early. He works night shift, so he said he'd probably be sleeping. But Tony Stewart finally pitting. I think Bobby Labonte might have pitted the lap before that or right around there. Mark Martin's going to have a massive lead on the field for quite some time. But the thing is we might have to pit 2 times before the end of the race. It is going to be, if it somehow stays green for the final 208 laps from the time we restarted, or 209 because it's lap 192 when we went green. So if it goes green for the final 209 laps of this race, it is going to be very, very tight on if we can make it on one stop or not. That was a strategy I pulled with pitting at lap 188 during the caution. So I thought that there was a chance. And I honestly thought more cars were going to come down thinking the same thing, but we didn't see cars pitting right away. So we're definitely going to have to stretch it as far as we can. Again, I made it 106 laps on that initial run at the start of the race, so I'd like to think I can make it quite a ways. So if I just go 106, 106, I mean, 106 and 107 technically from lap 188, that'll be enough to make it to the finish. Basically, just going to have to go 1 extra lap on one of the runs. We had some caution laps in there technically, too, so that's why I think it's doable. But we also had 1 caution when I went 106 laps earlier, too, so I guess that's also true. We're probably going to have to get another yellow or 2 just to be able to make it. I kind of forgot about that. I went 106 laps on the first run, but I also forgot there was a caution at lap 38. So there's a little bit of fuel saving there. Tony will have to pit twice or more. I don't think so. I mean, he pitted lap 207, 208. Tony Raines up against the wall. I think Scott Riggs ended up getting the free pass when he restarted behind me. I don't think he was also on pit road. Oh, a little contact. Tony Raines off the wall again off turn 4, and Sterling Marlin got into him there. Jamie McMurray to pit road. That'll extend this lead out a little bit more. Mark Martin trying to get underneath the 42 of Casey Mears and finally does. Good clean pass. We got another caution. This entire field is going to get trapped a lap down with the way the pit strategy has laid itself out here for Mark Martin. Martin trying to go for win number 16 on the season today. Last two races, he has not won. Finishing 4th and 3rd in both those races. Chicagoland 4th, 3rd at Pocono. .02.04 won that last lap, fastest of the day for Mark Martin. And another quickest lap, 22.035 there. I think I made a little contact with the lap car to my outside in the middle of 3 and 4. Nothing major, though. We stay green. Two cars up in front of me nearly made contact there in the 1 as well. Remember, we had to lead 337 laps or more today to get to 3,000 laps led on the season after this race. So that number, may be in reach. It's tough to tell for sure. Took us 25 laps to get to the lead at the start of the day. The way the pit strategy's kind of worked itself out. There's been some laps we haven't led, obviously, also. Both under green flag pit stops for the first set and second pit stop there under caution, as you saw on the lap 188 yellow. Lap 295, 296, it can make it to the end. Yeah, that's what we're trying here. Gonna have to stretch it. The more laps we can go after that, I think the better we can be, too. Watch me lead 336 laps, and I'm like 1 lap shy of 3,000 at the end of the end of the race. That'd be kind of funny, actually. I mean, it wouldn't. I guarantee I can lead at least 1 lap at Martinsville to get to 3,000 in the next race. I imagine I'll probably lead quite a few there. Again, the flatter tracks for me on this game, flatter, shorter tracks are the ones that seem to dominate. So I can end up leading like 400 plus laps at Martinsville, honestly. Might get to 3,500 within the next 2 races after this. As long as I get the pole at Sonoma, easily lead 100 laps there. I don't know about that. You just don't know how the cautions lay out. We get a lot of yellows on road courses on these EA Sports games, so I don't know how many laps exactly I'd be able to lead for that reason. That 100 laps, like, it's not that much. As far as, like, you know, laps-wise for length of race. You know, Dale Jr. blowing an engine, too. I really don't know. I would assume maybe Tony Stewart's in second, Greg Biffle, someone like that. But having this kind of an advantage between first and second, we really don't know who is in second place. Caution comes out. Somebody's going to get the free pass, whoever the first is a lap down. So this race isn't over by any means. Shouldn't say over if we get a caution. Again, we still don't know if we can make it on one more stop either. I can tell you the next stop definitely going to be 4 tires. If I had to pit the final 10 laps of the race, it would definitely be fuel only. I just hope that would, you know, how all the tire strategy is working with the alternating pit stops in this one of when to pit, when not to pit. You know, where are we going to cycle? Because last night at Pocono, I only gained 1 position going fuel only on that last stop before the... Well, luckily, we got a caution with 12 laps left, but we were able to drive up to 3rd or 19th on the last restart. Martin underneath his former... Whoa! Well, I was there, but apparently Jeff Burton was trying to turn himself. A little contact as he pinched off Mark Martin. Thought we were best friends. 22.1016 that last lap. I wonder if we can get into the 21s. Well, not this lap. Thought I was going to spin out there for a second. At 242. We'll take a field swap. We'll swap to Matt Kenseth in the 17. We haven't done this yet in the race today. Kenseth in 9th. Obviously a lap down here. Oh boy. I think Harvick's a spot right in front of him. Casey Kane behind him might be a spot also. Past Kyle Petty, who was another lap down than what Kenseth was. Yep, that is a pass for 8 on Harvick. I do really like this paint scheme, though, for Kenseth. It's just different. See where Jamie McMurray is next. McMurray in 16th place. Same lap as Kenseth, 1 lap down. Almost 2 down with where Mark Martin's at on the track. So we'll see if we can get Jamie McMurray going here. And Kyle Busch would probably be a spot for 15th. Ran the scheme Michigan in 06. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, obviously, he would have ran it sometime in 06. This game came out in 06. Maybe even 2005, he might have ran that scheme too. And they put it in the game. McMurray to the inside of Busch on the front straightaway. Pass made. And now we'll see where Biffle's at. Biffle in second. There you go. Well, we know who the second place car is then. It's Mr. Greg Biffle. So caution comes out. He'll be back on the lead lap. There's a race within the last few that we had where of the Roush cars, we had all 4 of them in the top 7 at the end of the race. Biffle getting by lap traffic. One more lap with Biffle, and then we'll go back to Mark Martin. Honestly, might as well get this second and final field pass out of the way then now. Rather do it before we have to make that final stop. Run it out right to the finish then. Send me 20 nuggets for McDonald's. Then door dash into my address. I have my lunch before I hit the road. Like a little more room there, Mr. Dover Monster, sir. A little contact between those two cars. Race reminds you of Martinsville race Thunder 04 on season 2. You probably remember that race more than I do. Mark Martin win that one or something? Biffle under Brian Vickers. The contact there also. Biffle gets by. Was a fuel mileage race at that Martinsville race also? Kind of curious to know what happened. I've just done so many races. Like, there's some that I can remember pretty vividly, the classic ones really, but oh, whoa. Murray getting a little loose. Oh boy. We're good. We are good. Extracurricular contact with Dale Jarrett there. Wasn't the best spot to be transferred in with a car underneath me on corner exit, but survived. How about McMurray picking up that extra spot? To get to 14th. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely, this whole fuel run right here is the part of the race where if we didn't get any cautions, it was just going to, I don't want to say drag on, but we know we're in a fuel mileage situation, so we just kind of got to wait and see, I guess, for what exactly is going to happen. Well, McMurray's being held up by the 178. Slip under him off turn 2. Clear him on the backstretch. Kenseth's still in the top 10, currently in 8th. Oh, I won with my driver, Terry Labonte. Oh, because everyone was locked out. I got you. Well, that makes sense. It's only going to be like that until we end up having to pit next. Kenseth under Labonte for position. Oh boy, low contact. So I mean, the AI really crowds you get later in the race. Especially battling for position. You just saw it right there. Kenseth almost got hooked in the right rear. Yeah, I believe Tony Stewart, Elliott Sadler, and Jeff Gordon are all for position as well for Matt Kenseth. So Roush could get 3 cars in the top 5 here soon. Oh, Blaney in the wall. Off turn 4. He almost sideswiped the 38 of Elliott Sadler. That was close. Kenseth trying to get under Jeff Gordon. Back straightaway. Kenseth is there. Passes Jeff for 6th. Deep dive to get underneath Elliott Sadler. Surprised that stuck. And Kenseth will look to make the pass for 5th place, as will transfer to Mark Martin for the rest of the race. I think Martin's definitely going to be able to push this field run pretty long here. I think having those 2 driver swaps in the middle of this run. Sick Kenseth car. Yeah, that's what I'm saying too. A lot of similar opinions in the chat. Kenseth the race car. Under 20 to go. Me. Must not have had the licensing for him or something. But hey, we didn't get Carl Edwards. At least we got the Dover Monster. Yeah, I'm definitely eating before the group of people I'm going with tonight. Said they wanted to eat in Cleveland somewhere. So that's why we're leaving to go there early. Elise Bambino, thanks for tuning in. Keegan coming in clutch on a non-NASCAR weekend. Hell yeah. Yeah, we've had NASCAR streams all week. These NASCAR 7 streams, we'll do that through next week as well. So we try to wrap up this Mark Martin Revenge Tour season. Our next stream will be tomorrow at noon. So noon tomorrow, we will be going live, and that will be a race at Martinsville, 500 laps. Longest video stream? One of my live commentary streams this year, I'd assume. We've had a few of them go well over 6 hours with rain delays. We had that string of rain delays from like Kansas through Iowa. Like both those streams were nearly 8 hours. I think the Kansas stream was about 8 hours. That was a lengthy red flag at the start of the... Well, not really in the middle of the race. It was the start of the race being delayed. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, we had a stream go nearly 8 hours this year. Had probably 3 or 4 of them over 6 hours already this season. Well, 100 laps since Martin last pitted, but again, we did have that pit stop under caution. We went green from that yellow at lap 292, which was with 209 laps to go at the time, just before the halfway mark. Martin trying to stretch the fuel tank and make it on one stop. That's why we're a lap ahead of the field. We pitted during that caution. They pitted during green not long after the yellow. So we're trying to stretch this fuel window to make this race on one more stop the rest of the way. And that's what will lead to this gigantic margin of victory. I'm still shocked nobody else pitted during that caution. I didn't think everybody was going to pit, but I had assumed that some cars were going to try the same thing just in case this race went green, because you never know. I mean, we've had, like, these cautions are so unpredictable. We can have races where we have a ton of yellows. We have races where we don't have any. We've had 2 caution-free races this season. And we've had, you know, races like this where we get a lot of cautions early. Like, look at Pocono last night. We had 7 cautions at Pocono. 5 of the 7 yellows were in the first 60 laps out of 200. Then we had 1 just past the halfway mark and 1 with 12 to go. So, I mean, we had a lot of long green flag racing in the second half of that race. I took the chance maybe that happens again here today, and I mean, so far it's been true. It's the longest green flag run so far, 100 laps. That last time by at the line, we have hit 100 laps during this green flag run. I think I'm going to be able to make it past lap 300. Taking those field passes when we did, we were able to save quite a bit of gas. I mean, 300 would definitely be the easy marker that we could make it to the end. Obviously, we don't have a field swap the rest of the race. Biffle coming in. This strategy is going to allow me to get close to leading 337 laps to get to 3,000 on the season. I saw Jimmy Johnson leave pit road. How many laps down is Biffle? Probably 3, 2 or 3. Because he has pitted before us. He was in second, 1 lap down. I don't know how many you'll lose under green flag conditions. So, he was in second, so he's probably only 2 down. He'll definitely get 1 back after we pit. All right, lap 299. Our fuel tank isn't even flashing red yet. I guess to that we can... Oh, caution. Caution is out. I don't know if I had 1 or 2 laps on the field when that caution came out. It looked like I only had 1 lap. Oh, wreck. Denny Hamlin and Scott Riggs. Looks like Hamlin just sailed it into 3 and turned him. Oh, no, the 198. I didn't even see that car. So the 198 was driving down the track into Riggs. And then Hamlin was already there on the bottom, and that's why Riggs kind of got clipped by him. So we're going to have to pit under yellow again. 4 tires fuel, no adjustments. And whoever was in second place is going to get back on the lead lap with the free pass. So we're going to have 2 cars on the lead lap. I'm not sure if any of them will take the wave around to get their lap back with us pitting. I don't know. I feel like everybody else that was 1 lap down probably hasn't pit yet, so they'd have to pit now. However many drivers that would be. So we got 2 cars on the lead lap. I told you 1 caution, and it brings 1 driver back into the mix again. So I still think we have the best car, but now we're good on fuel to the end, so I don't have to pit the rest of the race. Interested to see who was in second. Who was in second? Green flag back in the air. 98 laps to go. Good restart for Martin. Gets down in front of Jeff Green initially. It looked like Tony Stewart was in second. So Tony Stewart and Mark Martin will be trying to go for the win here. All right, we'll see what Tony's got tonight. There is a challenger in these final 100 laps. Pretty much locks us, if we stay caution-free, it locks us into a 1-2 finish. Tony should be able to make it upfield too, because he was just on pit road as well as Martin there. You'd have to go 98 laps for Green. He still hasn't gotten by Jeff Green since the restart. Now he's underneath him through 3 and 4. Third lap into the restart, working on our fourth at the line. Been hard to pass the 6 car when leading throughout the day. What was the yellow? It was, so the 198 car on the back straightaway was kind of hooking a left on the front bumper of Scott Riggs' car. Both cars were going down the track. Denny Hamlin was already underneath them both, so they were 3 wide. So when they got to Hamlin, then Riggs ended up turning off Hamlin's front bumper, and that's what caused the caution. Again, that was our 4th yellow. Took Stewart a minute to get by Jeff Green. Once he did, he's driven away, and now Stewart trying to rail in the 6. I think he'll get to us. It's just, can he get around us? It's going to be a different question. I've had the restart gear in it here, so that definitely helps too. Been able to get around the lap cars, around the lead lap cars on the restart pretty much all race. Haven't had any issues with it. Speaking of issues, a lot of smoke on the back straightaway there. We do stay green though. Every caution we get from here on out, though, is going to get one more car back on the lead lap to the end of the race. More smoke. Billowing. Luckily, I was able to get by Reed Sorensen, who was coming out of the pits there. Got a lot of cars pitting, actually. All the lappers that are in their fuel window are pitting. It didn't pit under the yellow. Gonna pause on the back straightaway real quick, just to get my laptop plugged in. I got the charger right next to me, so I don't have to go anywhere. Here we go. All good. And right as soon as I unpaused it, we get another caution. What are the odds? If I would have known that was going to happen, I wouldn't have paused the game. Debris brings out our 5th caution of the day. Scott Riggs' hood has fallen off, so that is going to get another car back on the lead lap. We'll have 3 trying to race for the win now. Yeah, I don't plan on pitting again. Green flag back in the air. Another good restart by Martin, quickly getting to the bottom of the track. Jared and Newman both a lap down in front of Tony Stewart side by side as well. Stewart's still stuck on the outside. Jamie McMurray's also going to make a pass. Riggs, of course, had that damage from the caution before. That's where the debris came from. Yeah, it's possible that the third place car was 2 laps down. With all the cars we saw pitting both before and after the pit stops. So if that's the case, then it is possible that me and Stewart are the only 2 in the lead lap still. It's tough to tell for sure, though, because, I mean, technically, you know, NASCAR rules, you get the free pass here at the tail end of the longest line. So they could have been at the tail end at the bottom of the track. And I think the only reason that me and Stewart could have been nose to tail instead of him at the rear of the field is because we both hit pit road. And he won the race out of the pits. So that's probably why he was right with us on the restart, if I had to guess. Second place, Tony Stewart still. And there he is. So glad I'm not in the middle of the pack because we saw a lot of smoke, a couple different laps on the back straightaway in particular on that last restart. I don't know who's all in the top 5. Because I don't know who's potentially on the lead lap from third if they're not, or a lap down. And the cars behind us, I don't know if they're all in the same lap or not. That are lappers. Some could be 1, some could be 2, or 3. I have no clue. Yeah, everybody definitely should be able to make it to the end on fuel. If they run out at the end, then they were foolish not to pit during those 2 cautions we had. Especially that last one. It was way more inside their window than the others. Tony was going to be tight on fuel for the last yellow. That was possible. Keep timing out the restarts well, though. I shouldn't have to worry about a lot of lap traffic to the end of the race. Keep getting cautions late. I mean, yeah, it hurts having to survive the restarts, but I have been perfect all day with them, so I'm not really feeling like I'm in danger of losing late. Actually, Tony Stewart's had a lot more problems on the restarts with lap cars getting by him. He just quickly grabbed the clean air and really not been passed today. Dale Jr. passed us at one time, but then he blew an engine when he's out of the race. So if he was the only one fast enough to actually pass us for position in this one, he's not even in the race anymore. I do think we have the fastest car, especially between me and Stewart. I would like to think I'm faster. going to be tough for Tony, but at least he has a chance. It's probably all he would have at least asked for. Is to at least have a shot and get in this position. If he doesn't have the speed, he doesn't have the speed. It's kind of with me at Pocono yesterday. You know, all I wanted was a caution, at least have a chance. And if I came out a little later than what I would have liked, 8 laps wasn't a long time to try to go from 19th to 1st. We only got to 3rd, but at least we had a chance. Car feels fine. It's felt really good all race. I haven't made a single adjustment the entire race. And that was without practice and qualifying. I mean, I won and led 231 laps in the first Dover race here earlier this season, so I just kind of automatically assumed the setup I had in it was going to be fine, so I just left it the same, and yeah, it's been perfectly fine. And no issues the whole time. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible. There are 2 cars behind me that pitted. It's just so hard to pass the leaders. I probably could have gotten to them sooner. Would have had more than just like a lap and a half to try to get by the top 2. I didn't get to 3rd till 2 to go off turn 2, so there wasn't a lot of time to really try to set them up and make a move. I just had to go for it. Yeah, I knew what you were talking about in the last caution. I mean, I took tires on the last caution at Chicagoland too, and I only got back up to 4th, so I similar amount of laps. About eight laps left, 9 laps left at the end of the race. And that was only from 8th place. Still only got to 4th. Shorter racetrack, 1.5 miles versus a 2.5 mile track. Honestly, that's a lot of what led me into the decision just to stay out and keep the couple positions with the cars that pitted ahead of me rather than pitting. When I pitted at Chicagoland, I only lost 1 spot, which is why I chose to make that decision. So it would have been the same exact strategy. Didn't work at Chicagoland, so that's why I didn't use it at Pocono. If it would have worked at Chicagoland, I would have won that race. I probably would have pitted last night at Pocono. I don't think I would have thought twice about it. 60 to go. Martin leads Stewart. I mean, if it does stay green to the end, we will catch lap traffic at some point here. Yeah, I really don't see myself losing this. Like, just the handling feels good. Even later in a, tire stint, still feels fine. It's going to take a lot for Tony Stewart to make a pass. He hasn't been, like, right all over my back bumper to try to shoot a shot and get underneath either. Holding the last couple laps, about a half a second lead again. Yeah, there wasn't really any tire wear at Pocono last night. It's kind of been the case here at Dover today, too. Yeah, with these intermediate tracks, like, I can tell, or just these tracks in general in this game, like, some tracks, you get late into a run, my balance feels fine, and it doesn't really feel like the tires are much different later in the run than what they are earlier in the run. Some of them, like, you get halfway through the run, and the car's junk. You just really don't know what you have until you get that deep into the first run. Because in practice, like, I'm not running 50-plus laps in practice to find out what the car is going to handle like on the long run. Like, I'm not doing that. I'm already about to run a full race, like, within a half hour of me doing a practice session. I'm not going to do, like, 50 laps more on top of the 300 whatever laps I already have planned for certain races. Like, it's just, I'm not doing that. But I can tell if it's, really out of shape early in the run, it's definitely not going to hold up late in the run. So at the very least, try to get the balance right early and just hope, it's okay late. And if I have to make adjustments through the race, I can. There's not a lot you can do in the race. You can really only adjust the wedge. Can't mess with, like, the downforce or the ride heights of the car with the suspension. I don't think you can do is wedge and air pressure. I can do a little bit. During the race. But even if it fixes the handling, it might take some speed out of it too. Could be ill handling, but there's a lot of speed. You got to find that happy medium where you're not losing too much speed, but the car can still make it a full run without wrecking. It's the big thing. Especially with these older EA games. And so halfway out of gas, lap 356. We have 45 laps to go. It was 98 laps left when we restarted earlier. And then we had one caution after the 98 to go restart. I'm not going to be able to save gas with Tony Stewart right there. I mean, we got to run this out. Oh, I did my math wrong. 45. Now, no, I did say 45, didn't I? 45 is 90. And we pitted with 98. Yeah, we're good. We're good on fuel. Yeah, I definitely burning more gas on this run, but we should still be good. Good news is we're so far ahead of everybody else. Worst case scenario, we run out of fuel on the last lap. We finish second. But That would still be a bummer to lead as many laps as we would in this race and not win. With contact up there, Kyle Petty and Paul Menard. Petty scrapes the wall off turn 4 also. Oh, yeah. I'll definitely lead over 300 at least by the end of the race. Hopefully we can get to 337. Because if we get over 3,000 tonight, try to go for over 400 lead at Martinsville tomorrow, get to that 3,400 mark. We'll have 7 races left. If we can do that after Martinsville. 7 races to try to lead 800 to 900 laps, and we still got a 500 lap race at Bristol in there too. So the record is achievable. Somebody blowing up on the bottom of the track, that would be J.J. Yaley. For Joe Gibbs Racing, teammate of Tony Stewart, who's in second place. Lead about 350. That seems about right. So Stuart Martin knows the tail. 34 laps left at the Monster Mile of Dover. We've had 5 cautions so far in the race here today. Late morning into early afternoon. Sorry for not having the usual noon Eastern stream times on non-NASCAR race weekends. The reason this race is not at noon today, I go into SummerSlam later tonight in Cleveland, so I was going to have to leave here a little after 1 p.m. today, so starting at noon just wasn't going to be able to work. About 10 a.m. was about the latest I could have started it and still got it done in a reasonable time that I'll have like half hour, 45 minutes before I have to leave. Tony's going to be tight on fuel. Yeah, it could be. He might be tighter than us. I'd still like to think we're going to be good. I mean, we're only going to be a few laps to the good, but I think we're going to be good. I really didn't have any worries of it, you know, when we pitted 2 cautions ago and restarted with 98 to go. Caution would have technically landed at lap 102. Sure to hit the like button if you guys haven't done so on the stream yet. So we're in the late going. Helps these streams out a ton. Subscribe if you haven't yet for more daily NASCAR content. Live commentary streams on the real NASCAR race weekends for Truck Xfinity Cup races as well as Cup practice and qualifying. and these video game streams during the week, or in this case with NASCAR off again, the Olympic break. We have it here today and tomorrow as well. Our next live stream will be noon Eastern time tomorrow with this NASCAR 7 season. It will be a 500 lap race at Martinsville for the running of the DirecTV 500. So we'll see how that's going to go. .25 to go. Just lapped Reed Sorensen again. Two fantasy drivers are up next, 144 and the 145. Oh boy. 144 got up into the wall after sliding clear of the 145. Checked both of them up. Tony Stewart had to lift as he was still behind on that high side off turn 4, while Mark Martin was able to get to the inside and escape both cars. It's going to extend his lead a little. Not as tight between the top two positions all of a sudden, and Mark Martin's got about a 7/10 of a second lead. 23 laps left. We've had lead cautions in the last couple races. Pocono, 12 to go was the last yellow. Chicagoland, our last caution, ended up striking with about 9 laps left, so we'll see. Yeah, I definitely going to be qualifying for Martinsville. I'm going to be qualifying the rest of the season, trying to get this record for laps led. I mean, obviously winning the championship's number one, but I don't think there's any way we're losing the title. We might end up winning this championship by over 1,000 points, the rate we're going at. Quarter tank of gas left with 19 to go as Martin was working off turn 4 when he got the signal from his crew chief. Tony Stewart's still back there in the rearview mirror. Margin of the lead is about a second right now between first and second place. Another lap car between the top two. The fantasy driver losing another lap. Mark's starting to turn it on. He's about a 10th or 2 quicker lap than Stewart. Trying to build a little bit of a safety net. Have I ran a 21-second lap time tonight? I haven't noticed. That last lap was a 22.011. But it wasn't my fastest of the race. 22:07.7. A little slower passing Tony Raines there. The first win in 3 races for Martin. Can definitely get the 20 on the season. With winning this here today, that means we'd have to win 5 of the last 9 races to get the 20 wins on the year, but it's doable. Still got some good tracks for us. Got some bad tracks. My worst finish this year was at California. Finished 23rd, and we still got a race there yet. Daytona's not been one of my better tracks on the EA games, but race there for the finale. I did win the Daytona 500 with Mark Martin, though, earlier in the year. Didn't lead a lot of laps, but we did win the race. Ten laps left this time by. With the lap cars, we got to go 3 wide up there for a second. That was close. Oh boy! Oh my gosh! Sterling Marlin blowing a motor on the bottom of the track. Oh man! No caution for that. We stay green. 9 laps to go now. I had to drive it into the wall and miss him. Oh. I didn't see him until like the last second, and usually when that happens, it's too late. Oh my God. Why wasn't he on the apron? He was like a lane off the bottom. Oh, we got another one. Denny Hamlin. Same. Jesus. He was a little lower. Denny Hamlin blowing an engine about 2 laps after Sterling Marlin. Gave you a heart attack. Gave me a heart attack. My gosh. I'll tell you what, man. Even when you think you got it locked up, you just never know. You never know. Until that checkered flag flies, it's never over. Five laps left for Mark Martin. 1.3 second lead. Got 3 lap cars up ahead. I don't know what my lead was at before I had to miss Sterling. I probably lost some time from that, I'd imagine. Three wide. 151 hits the wall. Luckily, they merged by the exit of the corner. Martin drives by the 7, the 151. He's got the 198 who was involved in a caution earlier in the day right in front. 1.2 to 1.3 second lead. 3 laps to go. Plenty of fuel, yep, to make it to the end here for Mark Martin. And once he gets by this 198 through 3 and 4, there won't be a single lap car. Martin will have to pass the rest of the race. 2 to go. Clean air. Dominance at Dover. White flag in the air. 1 lap to go for Mark Martin. He's going to get the Dover sweep on the season. And win number 16. Adding on to the modern era record and trying to go for that lap sled record on Bobby Allison to the end of the year continues with this dominating performance. Only 3 cars. Oh, wow, Kevin Harvick got the second. Where did he come from? Living up to the closer nickname. He didn't get the win, but he does end up finishing second. Yeah. Had enough fuel for a little burnout. Oh, wow. We barely got to 337. 339. That's going to give us 3,002 laps led on the season. So 3,002 laps led on the season. 26 top 10 finishes in the first 28 races. 24 top 5s in those 28 races, and now 16 wins. Rest of the top 10, Harvick finished second. Tony lap. Ryan Newman fourth. Bobby Labonte, another top 5 for him. Is that Kurt Busch or Kyle Busch in sixth? Kurt Busch sixth, Dale Jarrett seventh, Jamie McMurray eighth. Good run for him. Greg Biffle ninth, Jeff Green 10th. So 3 Roush cars in the top 9. I don't know where Kenseth ended up. Kenseth finished 14th, apparently. Would not have expected McMurray to be the second highest finishing Roush car, but he was. Biffle's actually 2 laps down in 9th, and Jeff Green 3 laps down in 10th. Biffle was the only driver 2 laps down at the end of the race. We had a lot of engine failures. Well, not as many as the last 2 nights, I guess. We had a lot late. Michael Waltrip early on. Dale Jr. we saw blow an engine right before the caution towards the midway point of the race. J.J. Yaley blew a motor. Sterling Marlin, who we obviously saw, nearly piled into him. Denny Hamlin a couple laps after him. Dave Blaney finished, but 10 laps down. No slow cars finishing this race at the end. 5 DNFs total, 5 cautions total, 31 lead changes, 1.4 second margin of victory, 2 hours, 50 minutes, 13 seconds total time in the race. 140.98 miles per hour was the average race speed. And we had a 3.2 average finish coming into the day. That might have gone down a tick or 2. As we go to Martinsville Speedway in tomorrow's race. Check out the point standings real quick. I have a little extra time. Post-race inspection failed. All right. I mean, we're getting really close to being able to mathematically clinch this championship in the next couple races. I don't think we'll be able to do it tomorrow at Martinsville, but give me another race or 2 after that. A 966-point lead over Jimmy Johnson. Greg Biffle in third is now over 1,000 back. Kenseth fourth. Jeff Gordon top 5 in points. And he's without a win this season. Biffle actually hasn't won yet this year either, being third. Or Kenseth. Stewart's got 2 wins. And Harvick almost went back-to-back, finishing second tonight. Won the last race at Pocono yesterday. It's his first win of the season. Jeff Green's still 12th. And Bobby Labonte in the 43 car trying to get a top 10 points finish. He's got a big gap between him and Newman, but we'll see. Just never know. It's going to wrap up today's stream. Be sure to hit the like button if you haven't yet. Again, noon Eastern time tomorrow. We'll go live. Martinsville. Should be an interesting one. 500 laps. Hopefully you enjoyed today's race. Despite the earlier start time. Appreciative of a lot of you guys tuning in, even with this early start time as well. So, kind of out of the blue. But got plans. So, have a good rest of your Saturday, and I'll see you again tomorrow.